Hello and welcome to the Limitless Podcast. I actually have a new background. So this is my new office. It may be a little echoey because it may look pretty, but I haven't actually put anything into the shelves and it's not fully decorated. So there's a lot of wall in this space, but we are so glad to be in our new home, starting to get things a little bit organized and having a lot more stability that we have not had since a wedding, since a move, and now unpacking. So glad to be with you today. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about really recognizing the patterns that create some distance within your marriage. And I think, most of the people that I coach, that is one of the things that they say. There's a lot of distance. I just don't feel connected. And we're going to walk through what those patterns look like, perhaps what it looks like in your marriage. And obviously, we're really going to dive into a solution. But there was really, honestly, a point in my marriage where I didn't understand how we got there because I was so in love with my husband when we first got together. I mean, I wanted to be with him all the time, and then suddenly, I just it was like, what happened here? But the truth is, it really doesn't happen like that. It's subtly over time, and it wasn't that we were fighting; we just were disconnected. And we typically go through, as women, there's some default modes that we go into when we feel disconnected, when things aren't going well in our marriage. And for me, I was doing everything. I was working, I was cooking, I was keeping the house, but I still felt completely alone with the person that I loved the most. Can you relate to that? And I know it wasn't because he didn't love me. It truly was because we were living unconsciously in our marriage. And I'm going to talk to you today more about living unconsciously because most of us are operating from old programming. Let's call it Love 1.0. The old programming that we really didn't know how to have a healthy marriage. We've never been taught to have a healthy marriage. We've never been taught the logistics of how to have a healthy marriage. So we default to what we learned from our parents, what we learned or what we do not want to repeat, right? I don't want to be like this. For me, my mother had been married multiple times, and I was adamant about one marriage. And I was adamant about sticking with it. And thank goodness she taught me that. Really, thank goodness that she taught me that because there were several points in our marriage where I really wanted to walk away. I really was looking into the future of what would it look like without him in my life. But it was that I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because I learned that and I know the pain that it feels as a child to be exposed to that. And I really felt that for my children. And I really started to think about, I would miss those family holidays. I would miss our family vacations. I would just miss what we had created. So the default for me that I learned was I don't want to have a marriage like this, that you're married several times looking for the right person. And that taught me so much. And I really believe that our parents are here to teach us so much of what we want to bring into our adult life and what we do want to bring into our adult life. And there's so much gratitude that we can offer our parents for teaching us what to do and what not to do, right? So we default to what we saw, what we witnessed, what was modeled for us. I want to teach you a new way. And this new way is going to revolutionize the way people look at their marriages. And I truly believe that this will save millions of marriages, millions of families will be able to stay together because they're looking at their marriage in a very different and very unique way. So, and it's we've been running around unconscious. We're unaware of what is actually causing the problem, what is actually the underlying theme of what's going on. There is a way that you can have a 100% incredible marriage. There is a way where you can go back to being best friends. There is a way where your communication can be better. And there is a way where you come back together and you are connected and experiencing peace within you, not sacrificing yourself, which most of us women do, but having that peace within you and in your marriage and being authentic to who you are, your partner's being authentic to who they are. And real healing in a marriage begins the moment that you realize the disconnection that you're experiencing is just an invitation. And I want to walk you through that invitation. And just like I talked about earlier, disconnection is not something that happens overnight. It's very subtle. It's a slow fade, just like anything in our life, right? It doesn't happen overnight. It's a very slow fade. And one morning we wake up and like, dang, I don't feel connected. I miss the long talks we have. I miss the fact that we used to have a consistent date night. I miss the touches, which now feel very uncomfortable to me. I'm not speaking of myself now. I'm speaking of myself in the past. Those are subtle signs of disconnection. And for Mark and I, the way that began in our marriage is, you know, in the very beginning, he was very busy. I was actually in PA school, and we did take some time to be together. It wasn't as much time as we thought, but him being a coach and me being in medicine, we brought the stressors into the home. And whatever's going on in my mind and whatever's going on in his mind, that caused a little bit of a disconnection, because when you have so much going on in your mind, you just aren't present in the moment. And I look back and I see that now is we were bringing our work into the home and we weren't fully present because those thoughts were just cycling in our head. The stress of it, the concern of it, whatever it is that we brought home. I brought home what my patients were experiencing and all of the worries and fears that I was going through while in medicine. What if I give them the wrong medicine? What if they don't get well? What if, all of those what ifs? And for him, he would bring home very similar concerns and stressors and anxieties when it came to his team. How can I make this adjustment to make this work better? How can we win more matches, etc.? And you can see how when you're constantly thinking about that, you aren't really engaged. You're disconnected, but you're in the same room. And so it began like that for us early on in our marriage. And then once we had children, I'm sure you can relate to this, that is when we were just, constantly being tugged in different directions. And, by the time you get the kids in bed, we were exhausted and, we hadn't had time to like fully release the workday, right? You're still thinking about all those things. That doesn't stop. And you gradually start drifting away even more and more and more. So that's how it began for us. And I just remember really desperately wanting to feel close. And one of my biggest concerns when we got married is I never wanted to lose my best friend. And I was searching for my best friend. How can I get my best friend back? And that's the default mechanism for most of us women when we're having marital issues, when we're feeling disconnected, when there's a lot of fighting, when we start thinking about all of the things that he doesn't do, etc. Our default is, what am I doing wrong? And so we go into the do mode. Our husbands will do the same thing. Maybe, we say something about, you never help around the house. I'm always doing everything. Their default mode is to start to do more, right? And that doing more for them means then she'll be quiet. That's really what it means. If I do this, then she'll be quiet. What we're looking for is we're looking to be loved. And they are too. But that's mainly why we do more is we're wanting that connection, we're seeking that love. So our default is to do more. We also have a certain level of expectation, an expectation that probably were never even spoken when we first got married. For example, we expect him to make us feel safe. We expect him to help us around the house. Expect, um, you know, to do the lawn. We expect him to hold us, to listen to us. We expect him not to interrupt us when we have something that we come to him. There's lots of different expectations that we have, and those unmet expectations will build up resentment, which causes disconnection. So, you can see how this pattern will start in your marriage, and you don't even recognize that that is what it is. And then the third thing that happens in our marriage when we start to feel disconnection is the stories that we make up about him. He doesn't love me. I'm not important. These are things that I talk about all the time because those are actually what is running the story. And the words that we're saying about him, what we think he's thinking, is actually us. It is actually a mirror of us. It's actually a mirror of what we believe about ourselves. And that is from our childhood. We married our partner because we were actually looking for those wounds of our childhood to be nurtured, for our partner to give us what was missing in our childhood. For example, if you were missing um, communication, if you were missing feeling important, if you were missing in your childhood, if you always felt like you were dismissed, if you always felt like you had to be the responsible one, what we're looking for in our spouse is, I want you to take care of me if we've always been the responsible one. If we didn't feel important, I want you to make me feel important. So we're looking for that in our spouse. So those are what are really running the show in your marriage. It's those stories. Those stories are what needs to be healed. Those stories, once they are healed, you start to look at your marriage in a very different way because it's no longer the lens through which you see everything. So obviously, those cause some disconnection in your marriage as well. But I will go beyond and let you know that is the number one factor that's causing every problem in your relationships are the stories that are running. It's causing problems in your relationship with your children, with your parents, with money, with your health, with procrastination, with discipline. That is the number one thing that is causing every relationship in your life to suffer. And we're just seeing it in your marriage. And when you work on your marriage, it changes all the other relationships as well. The marriage is where we get the most triggers. It's where we see the most triggers. I'm on a mission to help marriages stay together. If it's possible, if there's no emotional or physical abuse, if it's possible, yes. And I know that this is the vehicle to do that. So what's really happening is it's not that we're falling out of love. It's not that he doesn't love you. It's not that he doesn't think that you are important, but all of the disconnection that we're experiencing is under the weight of all the things that are unspoken, all of the things that are running subconsciously. That's really what it is. It's the unspoken words, it's the unspoken hurts, it's the unspoken expectations, and the stories that are driving all of the above. The stories that we make up about him and the stories that we believe about ourselves. And in this point where all of this starts to come together is we become very guarded and our nervous system no longer feels safe. And so we build up those walls. And from what used to feel safe and what used to feel so free, now we're just surviving. We're just in survival mode. Whew, can you feel that? Yeah. You just go into survival mode, and that's when you kind of look around and you're like, there's got to be more. What happened? What happened? And what I don't want to happen is that we just settle for status quo and this is the best that it'll ever get. And I guess marriage is just supposed to be like that because I am here to tell you it is not. It is not. I lived that way. We lived that way for years and years and years. And it's not meant that way. And the marriage that we have today is polar opposite. It is like we are little young Mark and Deanna starting our relationship. It is like that, and it can be like that. But we have to really become more conscious of what's running the show, what's causing the disconnection. And it's really hard to connect someone when you constantly have that scorecard that you're keeping from the hurts. And if you follow that scorecard all the way back, they lead back to your childhood. They lead back to your childhood. And we're constantly defending that story, that hurt, because it's an open wound. And it's hard to have that connection like that. So that's why I created the conscious marriage method. And the conscious marriage method is it goes beyond repair of the marriage. It goes beyond the repair. And it teaches us really how to heal ourselves, how to take radical responsibility for our part. And it's the stories, my friend. It's healing those stories. It's not perfect, but it's intentional. And that's what makes the difference, being intentional about what the root cause is in your marriage. And being conscious is doing the work to heal yourself, regardless if he's ready. Now, ideally, and I coach many couples today, ideally, two people doing the work, choosing to do the work, choosing to look at their stories and being intentional about it. Okay. But I want you to understand that if he won't, your marriage can change when you heal your stories. When you start looking at those hidden expectations that were never verbalized, and when you start choosing to use your voice. So we have to understand that our triggers, and our triggers are what is the sweet spot for me. You give me a trigger and I can tell you exactly what your story is, what that story from your childhood that is running the show, that story in your childhood that is not helping your marriage. It's hurting you. It's causing you suffering, causing you to feel stuck and no peace and lack of freedom. I can identify that story. But our triggers are an invitation to actually see that. And it's, once you are able to see what your triggers are, then we can start to regulate your body so that you can actually speak, regulate your nervous system. And your body is saying, this doesn't feel right. And because we're putting all of these emotions in our body, you have to choose to shift from unconscious, where we're constantly reacting to the triggers, right? And instead choosing consciousness, a conscious way of living where we're responding. And that changes everything. It changes the energy in your home, it changes the tone of your conversation, and it changes the way that you feel. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're realizing this like totally relates, and I'm going to tell you, I would say 99% of those of you who are listening can say, yes, I can relate to that. That's me. And I'm doing everything, but I feel unseen. I love him, but I'm exhausted. I want you to know that this does not mean you are broken. You're not broken. We all have those stories. You're just disconnected from each other. You're disconnected to the root cause. You're looking and seeking answers in places that do not give you that long-term result. This program does, because we're healing at the root cause. We're looking at the stories. We're changing the stories. Those stories feel real. I know they do. And all of those times that he has hurt you has felt, those feel real. And I'm not saying that they're not real, but what I am saying is There's a story behind it that's magnifying that feeling, and that story needs to be changed. So in the conscious marriage program, I actually guide you through 4 pillars of healing, and this is the exact process that helped me and hundreds of women reconnect to themselves, reconnect to the truth of who they are, not the stories, but the truth of who they are, and release the resentment, rebuild the emotional intimacy from the inside out, not from the outside in, trying to do more. It doesn't work. Trying to change him, it doesn't work. You don't have to keep pretending that everything is fine. And you don't have to live on autopilot in your home believing, I guess this is good as it gets. There is another way. And it starts when you decide to heal differently. It starts when you decide I'm ready to do the work, because what the way this feels today, I can't do it anymore. And I'm going to tell you, my friend, it's not about having another partner, because you will repeat the same patterns with a new partner. It's about taking a look on the inside. It's the most beautiful, life-changing work I've ever done on myself. And that is why I'm so passionate about it. So the enrollment for the Conscious Marriage Method is open right now. And this is your invitation to stop surviving in your marriage and start experiencing life again. Start feeling that connection. So if you want more information, we have put the information in the show notes for you. Go and click on that link, take a look. Would love to have you. There are limited spots because I do live coaching. So we do coaching on the calls. There are pre-recorded modules to stimulate what's going on within you. And then once we get on the live calls, there is live coaching. So I want to keep it a very close, intimate group. So I'll see you inside. I love you, and I want you to know it will get better, my friend. You can have a beautiful marriage, and I believe in you. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Limitless Podcast. If you loved it, and I know you did, make sure to like and subscribe and share it with others. Help us get the message out. See you next week.